Ethan Cole had been alone for years on the frozen moon called Therion 9. The colony had failed long ago, and the last ship that left had promised to return for him, but it never did. Time moved slowly there. The sun barely touched the horizon and the land stayed covered in ice and silence. He lived inside a small metal shelter, powered by a half-broken reactor and surrounded by old machines that no longer worked. Every morning, Ethan walked outside in his heavy suit, checking the equipment scattered around the ruins of the old base. He would repair what little could be repaired and talk to himself, just to remember the sound of a human voice. His breath fogged the inside of his helmet and his boots crunched on the thin crust of ice that never melted. Sometimes, he would look up at the dark sky full of stars and wonder if anyone out there even remembered that one human still lived on this lonely moon. His days were quiet, but the nights were worse. The silence was so deep that he could hear his own heartbeat. He would sit near the heater, drinking recycled water and reading the same few digital books over and over again. Sometimes he dreamed of Earth, the oceans, the wind, the sound of people laughing. But each time he woke up, there was only the soft hum of machines and the endless cold. Still, Ethan refused to give up. He sent a distress signal every week, hoping someone might hear it. He wrote in his digital log, keeping track of everything, the storms, the power failures, even his thoughts. "If anyone ever finds this," he often said to his recorder, "tell them I stayed alive." Then one night the moon trembled. Ethan woke to alarms screaming in his shelter. The sky outside was not dark anymore. It shimmered like water, waves of light spreading across the horizon. His sensors went wild, detecting energy readings higher than anything he had ever seen. He rushed to the control panel trying to stabilize the power core, but before he could act, the ground split open beneath him. A pulse of light struck his shelter and everything went black. When Ethan opened his eyes again, the cold was gone. He wasn't inside his shelter anymore. The air felt warm and he could hear faint music like wind moving through glass. Shapes moved around him, tall, graceful figures with glowing skin and eyes like stars. His vision blurred and he tried to sit up, but his body felt weak. A soft voice spoke. It was melodic and calm, though the words were broken and strange. "Do not move. You are safe." He turned his head and saw her. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her hair shimmered like silver light, her face calm and beautiful, and her eyes glowed with a soft blue color that seemed alive. She looked at him with both curiosity and sadness. "I am Queen Aranel of the Illyrians," she said slowly, her voice gentle but filled with power. "You have been asleep." "A long time." Ethan frowned, trying to understand. "Asleep?" he whispered. She nodded. "Yes, you were found in the old ruins, frozen in cryostasis. We thought you were a myth, the sleeper beneath the stars." He blinked, confused. "How long was I asleep?" 214 years, she said softly. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His hands shook as he looked around. The room he was in was not made of metal, but of smooth, glowing crystal. Strange patterns moved across the walls like living light. The Illyrians, tall, elegant beings, stood around him speaking in soft tones. They all looked at him as if he were something sacred. The Queen stepped closer. "Our people found your signal long ago. We came here to the place of your rest. It is said among us that a sleeper from another world would awaken when the balance of life on this moon was threatened. You are that sleeper." Ethan could hardly believe it. "I'm just an engineer," he said quietly, "not a savior. I was just trying to survive." But the Queen only smiled faintly. "Sometimes those who survive carry more strength than those who conquer." She offered her hand, and when he touched it, he felt warmth spread through his body. For the first time in centuries, his heart no longer felt cold. Over the next days, Ethan learned about the Illyrians. They lived in harmony with the energy that flowed through the planet. Their technology was alive, grown, not built. The Queen ruled with kindness. Her people united through something they called the luminous bond, a connection of minds that allowed them to feel each other's emotions. The Illyrians treated Ethan with respect, but also with a kind of wonder. They believed his awakening was not random, it was destiny. Some even sang songs about him, calling him the Starborn. Others whispered in fear, saying his arrival meant change, and change always brought danger. Ethan stayed mostly quiet, helping where he could, learning their ways. Though their world was peaceful, he could sense unease in the Queen's eyes. Sometimes she would stand by the high crystal windows, staring at the distant horizon where dark clouds gathered. One evening, she took him to the highest tower of her city. From there, the landscape stretched far and wide, fields of glowing flowers, silver rivers, and skies painted with green auroras. "This world has known peace for 1,000 years," she said softly. "But something stirs beyond the stars. Machines that breathe fire, voices that speak of conquest. We feel it in our dreams." Ethan followed her gaze. In the far distance, flashes of light broke across the night sky like silent storms. "That looks like engines," he said quietly. The Queen turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Engines of war," she whispered. "They come from the same stars you once called home." Ethan froze. Could it be humans? After all these years, could Earth have returned, only not to rescue, but to claim? As fear crept into his chest, the Queen placed her hand over his heart. The prophecy spoke of the sleeper who would awaken not to fight, but to guide. "You are that bridge, Ethan Cole." He looked at her, unsure of what to say. "I don't even know if I believe in prophecy," he said softly. "Belief is not needed," she replied. "Only choice." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat near the window watching the twin moons rise above the Illyrian city. The people moved like streams of light below, unaware of the danger approaching from the stars. He thought of the humans he once knew, driven, curious, brave, but also capable of greed and destruction. He closed his eyes, remembering the loneliness of his years on Therion 9. He had once prayed for humans to find him again. Now, for the first time, he feared that they might. In the stillness of the night, the Queen's voice echoed in his mind, not in words, but as a feeling of calm. "You are not alone anymore." Ethan looked up at the sky one last time before sleep claimed him. Somewhere out there, ships were coming, engines burning across the dark. The same people who had left him behind were returning, but this time they would not find the same man. For now, he was the sleeper who had awakened, the human chosen by a queen from another world. And though he didn't yet understand why, deep inside, he felt something powerful begin to stir, something that told him his solitude had finally ended. Days passed quietly after Ethan's awakening, but a strange unease filled the Illyrian city. From the towers of crystal, the sky no longer looked calm. Faint lines of light moved in the darkness above the clouds, unnatural and straight like ships. The Illyrians could feel it in the air, a change in the song of their world, and Ethan could feel it too. Something human was coming. He walked through the glowing streets, watching the gentle people who had accepted him. They sang as they worked, their voices joining into soft harmonies that powered their machines and healed their land. He could see how they lived, no money, no greed, no weapons. Their city shone like a living thing, full of peace. He wished humans could see it. But peace never lasts when fear arrives. One night the sky tore open with fire. 3 giant ships entered the moon's orbit, their metal hulls marked with the symbol Ethan knew well, the crest of the Terran Dominion. His heart sank. They were from Earth. Humanity had finally come back, but not to help. They came to claim. Sirens echoed across the Illyrian towers, soft chimes of warning that carried through the air. The Queen stood at the balcony of her palace, her silver hair glowing in the moonlight. "They have come," she said quietly. "Your kind." Ethan's chest tightened. "They're not my kind anymore," he said. "Not if they plan to take this place." The Queen turned to him. "You know how they think. Will they listen to words?" He hesitated. "Some will. But the Dominion doesn't send ships to talk. They send them to take what they want." Within hours, the human ships landed near the valley outside the city. Metallic giants touched down, kicking up waves of dust and light. Soldiers in heavy armor stepped out, their boots crushing the glowing plants underfoot. The air smelled like metal and smoke. The Illyrians, unarmed and peaceful, gathered at the edge of the valley. Ethan stood among them, his heart pounding. He saw the soldiers raise their weapons, scanning the crowd. The lead officer, a man in dark armor, stepped forward and shouted through his helmet. "This territory is now under Terran control. You will submit your resources and leadership to the Dominion." No one moved. The Queen stepped forward, her calm presence filling the valley. "This world belongs to all who live upon it," she said gently. "We offer peace, not war." Her voice carried like music, but the soldiers did not understand her tone. They only heard defiance. The commander raised his hand. "You have 10 minutes to surrender." Ethan stepped out before the Queen could stop him. "Wait," he shouted. His voice echoed off the crystal cliffs. The soldiers froze, scanning him. His face was human, though his clothes were Illyrian-made. The commander tilted his helmet. "Identify yourself." "Ethan Cole," he said firmly. "Therian Survivor Engineering Corps, last colonist left behind 2 centuries ago." There was silence. The soldiers muttered in disbelief. His name was still in their archives, a hero lost during the early colonization age. The commander lowered his weapon slowly. "That's impossible. You're dead." "I was," Ethan said quietly, "until they saved me." He looked at the Queen beside him, then back at the soldiers. "These people aren't enemies. They're protectors of this moon. You can't take this from them." But the commander shook his head. "The Dominion doesn't negotiate with non-humans. They're not part of our alliance. Step aside, Cole. You don't belong with them." Ethan clenched his fists. "Maybe I don't belong with you anymore either." The soldiers spread out, preparing to advance. Illyrian children watched from the hills, their eyes glowing faintly with fear. The Queen touched Ethan's shoulder. "If you stand for us, they will hear through you." Ethan nodded, breathing deeply. The Illyrians began to hum, their voices rising into the air like waves of light. The ground shimmered and a soft glow surrounded the Queen. She took Ethan's hand and a pulse of warmth moved through his body. Their minds touched for a moment and he understood. She was sharing their song with him. When Ethan stepped forward again, his voice carried through the valley. "You came here thinking you found an empty moon, but it's alive. The people here are not your enemies. They live in peace. If you destroy that, then you destroy what's left of our humanity." The commander hesitated. "You don't understand our orders." "No," Ethan said. "You don't understand what we've lost." He pointed to the sky. "We built ships to explore, not to conquer. We dreamed of finding life, not taking it. These people saved me when your world forgot me. If you open fire on them, you're killing what's best in us." The soldiers murmured again. The commander's voice grew harsh. "Stand down, Cole, or be treated as a hostile." The Queen's light brightened. She raised her hand and the energy flowing through the planet itself began to rise. The Illyrian's song grew louder. It wasn't an attack, it was a plea. The sound was beautiful, like thousands of voices joined in harmony. The soldiers faltered, their scanners overloading from the energy field spreading across the valley. Ethan looked up as the glow reached the ships above. The lights on their hulls flickered, systems shutting down one by one. The Queen whispered to him, her voice echoing in his mind. "They hear you now, speak." He took a step forward and shouted with all his strength. "Go back. Tell Earth this place is not for taking. It's for learning. It's proof that peace can live, even after all our wars." The commander struggled against the wave of energy but finally lowered his weapon. The light in the valley dimmed, leaving silence. One by one, the soldiers stepped back. The commander looked at Ethan uncertain, then turned to his crew. "Pull back to orbit," he ordered. The ships lifted off, leaving trails of smoke that faded into the sky. The Illyrian song softened, turning into gentle notes of relief. The Queen looked at Ethan with calm eyes. "You have done what I could not," she said. "You reminded them of what it means to be human." Ethan felt weak, his legs trembling. "I didn't do it alone," he said softly. "You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Days later, the city celebrated under the twin moons. The Illyrians sang songs of peace and lit rivers with glowing petals. Children followed Ethan through the streets, calling him Starborn and offering small crystals as gifts. For the first time in years, he smiled without pain. The Queen stood beside him on the balcony that overlooked her shining world. "You could return to your people," she said quietly. "They would welcome the hero who saved us." Ethan shook his head. "They left me once," he said. "But you found me. This is home now." She smiled softly. "Then let it be known. The sleeper has awakened and the stars remember his kindness." He looked up at the sky. The stars seemed closer now, no longer cold or distant. Somewhere up there, Earth still turned. Maybe one day they would change. Maybe they would learn. But for now, he was content. Every night, Ethan walked through the glowing fields where the Illyrian wind whispered through silver leaves. The Queen often joined him in silence. Sometimes she would say, "You brought light where there was fear." He would answer, "You gave me purpose when there was none." And when he lay under the soft glow of the twin moons, he no longer felt the loneliness that had once filled his heart. He had come from a world that forgot him, but he had been chosen by one that remembered. He closed his eyes, listening to the quiet hum of life around him, and whispered to himself, I slept in solitude, and awoke chosen, not by fate but by love for a world that needed me, and above him the stars shimmered as if they too were smiling.